the IRS, which is in charge of handling taxes, has sent out $2,000 payments to seniors to help them through these difficult times. This additional money is similar to a surprise gift from the government intended to lessen financial obligations for individuals who receive Social Security. Additional Security Revenue Disability Insurance payouts from the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, or Social Security, SSI. We'll go into great detail in this video on what this means for you and your loved ones, including who is eligible for this boost and when you can expect to get it. Observe it arrive in your mailbox or account, and any easy actions you might need to take to ensure you receive your share. In addition, we're sharing some first-hand accounts from people who are getting this additional support to give you an idea of how it's making a difference in their lives. A difference in their lives. So stay tuned to learn everything you need to know to stay informed and ready. Whether you're qualified for the $2,000 payments or you know someone who is. The money will be given to a number of significant organizations. Beneficiaries of Social Security, if you are presently getting, you are eligible for the full $22,000 stimulus payment if you receive Social Security retirement benefits or Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. This applies to both individuals receiving benefits directly and spouses collecting benefits on their partner's record who are enrolled in the Supplemental Security Income, SSI program, which offers the $2,000 payment will also be given to elderly, blind, and crippled people with little means as financial help. Not to mention, anyone 65 years of age or over who receives pay and pension benefits from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is also eligible for the stimulus monies, does not fit into one of the aforementioned categories, but fulfills certain income requirements will be eligible to receive the $2,000 award. The specifics of the income restrictions are still being decided. It's crucial to remember that the stimulus payments are not taxable income and will not affect your ability to receive future government assistance. Initiatives such as housing help or Medicaid SNAP paper checks will start to be sent out in early June for those who do not have direct deposit information on file, according to IRS officials. Delivery dates may vary somewhat. The first wave of payments will start to arrive in bank accounts via direct deposit in late May. Depending on your region and membership in a particular category, such as Social Security recipients, you may receive payments during stimulus rollouts earlier than others. All potential recipients are being urged by the IRS to make sure that their banking information and contact data are current, as to check your status as quickly as possible and prevent delays. Go to irs.gov and select the Get My Payment Tool option. Individuals who do not receive their stimulus money by the end of the summer should be ready to take further steps, like filing an IRS payment trace. Of course, the huge everyone is wondering if $2,000 will help suffering households financially or if it will only be a short-term band-aid. The truth is that the answer will differ significantly based on each person's unique situation for low-income elderly or disabled people who rely solely on fixed monthly payments. An additional $2,000 would be a real game-changer. As estimated by U.S. Census data, almost 9 million senior Americans were living in poverty in 2020. For those who were on the verge of financial, with a $22,000 infusion, Brink could be able to pay off past due utilities or rent payments, replenish empty pantries with money, exceptional medical costs, and lessen the ongoing stress of having to make tough compromises in order to exist on a bigger scale. At a time when inflation is stubbornly high, the federal government is investing $128 billion in this stimulus plan. Prominent backers contend that allocating billions of dollars straight to the hands of Americans who are struggling financially will immediately increase consumer spending. Supporting faltering enterprises and bringing much-needed energy to the economy, detractors argue that $2,000 is insufficient to have a meaningful effect, particularly given the expenses associated with basic needs like food, shelter, and energy is still soaring. Prominent lawmakers have even mocked the action as a token effort to stifle calls for more significant measures to address inflation and growing economic problems. Additionally, there's the question of whether these $2,000 payments are merely a sign of things to come. More aggressive Washington's action intended to prevent a possible recession. While divisive politics are temporarily set aside, there are still vigorous discussions about policies like stronger social safety nets, student loan forgiveness programs, raising the federal minimum wage, changing the country's tax system, and more. The question is, the recent stimulus package represents a significant change in the way the U.S. government is approaching economic assistance initiatives. This is a problem that has been on many people's minds since the COVID-19 pandemic put millions of Americans in danger of financial instability nearly overnight in early 2020. The economy was devastated by lockdowns, company closures, and massive job losses. The U.S. government swiftly responded by passing the $2.22 trillion Healthcare Act, a package that included provisions for direct stimulus payments of up to $12 per person. In December, further stimulus installments, totaling $600, were added to the original payouts. During that turbulent period, well over $800 billion in direct aid flowed from Washington into the hands of average Americans under the American Rescue Plan, $1,400 in March 2021 and $800 billion in 2020, though opinions on the economic effects of those recent stimulus efforts are still sharply divided. Could this most recent $2,000 payment be ushering in a new era of economic thinking focused around putting more money directly into the hands of consumers instead of the banks? Studies suggest they played a key role in shoring up consumer finances, boosting spending, and even accelerating the overall recovery process. Supporters of corporations contend that directly placing money in people's pockets is the most effective approach to boost demand and promote economic growth from the bottom up by giving the working and middle classes greater access to expendable income businesses, such as major retailers and neighborhood diners. Supporters also point out the psychological benefits of these payments, saying they give struggling Americans a greater sense of financial security and stability when they aren't constantly in a panic about having a roof over their heads or food on the table, grow more self-assured to make bigger purchases and investments that support economic activity. Of course, critics of stimulus checks and direct cash transfers are still very skeptical of these policies, arguing that they are essentially wasteful handouts that burden future generations with debt and discourage work. Having enormous debts. Some even go so far as to argue that these payments are the result of fleeting economic booms, ignoring fundamental problems such as labor shortages, supply chain disruptions, wage stagnation, and more. Only time will tell if this $2,000 payment is a one-time event or something more significant. Establishes the groundwork for a more comprehensive transformation in the American economic philosophy, since tens of millions of beneficiaries currently eagerly anticipate the inflow of funds and the opportunities it might provide. There's little doubting that the IRS's $2,000 stimulus checks might be a lifeline for a lot of people. Families and people are suffering due to inflation and unstable economic conditions, but there are concerns about whether initiatives like these are really tackling the underlying causes of financial difficulties, or if they are just bandaging wide-open systemic wounds. There's little doubt that everyone will be watching. In the coming months, it will be interesting to observe how this most recent round of payments affects consumer spending, employment numbers, persistent inflation rates, and overall economic performance. These developments will ultimately determine whether direct cash transfers become a more permanent fixture or continue to be only emergency tools to be used in times of crisis. A mainstay of American policy theory. Eligible receivers would be advised to plan wisely in the interim on how to maximize these $22,000 payouts. Traditional most financial advice prioritizes essentials first. Settling debts, increasing emergency reserves, or directing finances into a long-neglected house, and medical needs or auto repairs, of course, since people and families are the ones who understand their particular situation the best for those who are still desperately surviving in the current unstable economic seas. A $2,000 life raft might be all they need to stay afloat and give them time to reconsider their long-term financial strategies. The $2,000 stimulus payments that millions of people are receiving couldn't have come at a better moment. Nationwide household budgets are severely squeezed due to ongoing inflation, causing many to make difficult decisions between putting food on the table and other expenses. Simply taking into account the most recent consumer price statistics, which shows that the food index increased 10.8% over the previous 12 months, with basics like eggs, milk, cereal, and vegetables all experiencing double-digit price increases. Grocery expenses alone increased 13.5% in comparison. The situation isn't any better when it comes to energy expenses, however. A year ago, these soaring food prices would have represented a significant financial obstacle for elderly and lower-class families trying to survive on fixed incomes. The cost of heating a home increased by 17.5% in the previous year due to high utility costs. Heavily at the petrol pump on American wallets, rising fuel prices resulted in excruciating additional expenses for anyone who had to drive to work, school, or medical appointments. Housing continues to be one of the major financial burdens on consumers, as rental prices have increased by 88.8% and mortgage rates are higher. Then double over the previous 12 months, many people feel that the ideal of inexpensive housing is becoming increasingly unattainable. Given that millions of people are fighting to maintain a roof over their heads, it is understandable why housing instability has grown into a major concern.